I have been wanting to talk about grief for some time now, although it is not something that's easy for me to discuss. Having experienced the throes of grief with the passing away of my father last year, it's always a difficult topic, yet I feel it's an important one because grief is inevitable. Grief in the form of any loss for that matter. You lose a job, you lose a friend, you break up, you lose a parent, you lose your significant other. Grief in any form, it's inevitable and it's a part of life. And what this podcast really is about is uh not just, I don't want it to be like a motivational thing where I always talk about the positive aspects of life. I also want to talk about the equally ugly and undesirable parts of the human condition itself, because the yin and yang, right? Without the ugliness, you wouldn't be able to really notice the good parts, or rather appreciate the good parts of life as much. The thing about grief is that people always tell you that you go through 5 stages. Kubler-Ross start with denial, end with acceptance. But you keep going back and forth between these stages. It's not linear. And that's a very hard pill to digest. So my father had brain cancer, and when I found out that he had cancer, it was obviously shock, and might have been in denial for a day or two. But even after he passed away, sometimes even now, it's been over a year, but I still like to imagine that he is alive. Although rationally I do know that he's no more. I imagine scenarios where he's still alive and I'm talking to him. I'm talking to him about the life that I have now. That's a manifestation of denial of some sorts. And again, the whole bargaining stage is also something that I keep going back to occasionally, wondering why I don't have one of my parents when most of people my age have both theirs. That's something I ask myself. I mean, I know that these beliefs are not exactly they're ugly, and I want to talk about the ugly aspects of it. I want to acknowledge the ugliness of it in order to take away this burden of grieving perfectly, because there's no such thing as perfectly grieving. So yeah, the first point, as I said, is that it happens, it does not happen in a linear fashion, and it's a very, very messy process and a very difficult one at that. I saw a reel that said you can read all the quotes that you want, but when it's your time to grieve, you will not be able to outsmart it, or something along those lines. You cannot outsmart pain, and that is just the blatant reality of life that I've come to accept. You cannot intellectualize your way out of pain. There are affirmations, there are things that people may tell you to make you feel better, but the meaning behind it is something that you have to figure out yourself. What that pain means, why was it significant, what to do out of it, whether or not to do something out of it at all is something that you have to figure out on your own. It is something that is for you to decide. That's what I truly believe in. And let me also talk a little about how culture influences grieving, or the perception of grieving. Let me tell you something. I come from an Indian household, and from what I've seen, our culture does not create a very safe space. Our culture, not just in terms of religion and customs, and but I'm also talking about the work culture and the kind of zeitgeist of the times we've been living in. The whole capitalism zeitgeist that gives you a 5-day bereavement leave. Um, I saw this woman in a video talk about how she had to grieve the loss of a 30-year relationship with her mother in 5 days. She was given 5 days. And yeah, people would still argue that 5 days is a lot. 5 days is enough to get back on your feet and get back to work. Sure. But I want to shed light on the individual differences and how people grieve in different ways and take different trajectories and take different lengths of time to grieve whatever it is that they're grieving. Personally, even in my experience, the whole absurdity was that I had to submit the death certificate of my father to prove that I had to take leave indeed because of my father's death and not something else. It's and this was back in college, right? I was a student. It wasn't that deep. It wouldn't have made that big of a difference even if I had missed a week. I missed 2 days, by the way. But even if I had missed a week full of classes, it really would not have made a difference to my academics, but it would have made a world of difference to my emotional life, to my mental health, because everything felt so rushed back then. I I another thing is that people take a lot of pride in getting back to work. There's this scene from Three Idiots where he says, the professor, he says, my son died and I showed up to deliver a lecture the next morning. And that shows that that's the general attitude that people have, that, oh, look how quickly I'm back on my feet. That is, although I do think that comes from a place of strength, it's not always coming from a place of strength. It's more of an obligation that people are expected to follow. The culture aspect, when we talk about it, there are certain things that people say when you're at a funeral that I really don't like. And the one thing that tops the list is that if you cry, it'll be hard for the the soul to reach heaven. And I'm like, what the fuck? That is not something that you come up and say to someone who is actively grieving. Do not ever say that. So it's like, don't cry, be strong mindset that even generally exists. It kind of becomes very blatant and very, it's pushed on your throat when you're having a clearly hard time with losing someone. Uh, so yeah, and also the way psychology treats it, the way the whole mental health industry treats it, it's like a disorder. Grief is a disorder. There is so much debate surrounding the diagnosis of prolonged grief disorder, because what do you mean prolonged grief? How do you decide what is the right amount, uh, right length of time in which you should be grieving? And why is there a focus on functioning and occupational functioning? And who is really at a disadvantage and at a loss if you take, God forbid, a month to grieve the loss of a loved one? Because is it really your loss, or is it a loss for the company that you're working for? Because under capitalism, I adopt a very post structural view in looking at everything. And same with grieving, because I think the definitions of disorder are derived from how much you are able to give or provide for the system, the capitalistic system that we live in. How efficient you are within that system, and all of these words, these language that we use, efficiency, functioning, optimal, it gives you the picture of not of a person, of a healthy living individual, of a human being with emotions and fears and insecurities. It gives you a picture of a machine, right? And we are not machines. We cannot be like that. We're not robots. So I don't think anyone should be shamed into bouncing back and getting back on their feet, getting back to work, getting back to college. Um, and because everyone's so individualistic these days. The society has become largely individualistic. We have been losing family ties and community ties. Grieving has become all the more difficult. And from my own experience, being surrounded by people really, it does make a world of difference. We need a village, and we need to be ready to be villagers. Because I had this mentality that asking for help or talking to someone through this hard time was cringy or whatever. I didn't want to call attention onto myself, so I didn't even tell my friends that my father had cancer and he suffered for 8 months, and I didn't tell them that I was running from one hospital to another, helping my mom settle insurance claims, and seeing my dad suffer actively, seeing my dad forget my name, seeing my dad not being able to walk, seeing my dad fall multiple times. It was hard on me, and I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't want to talk to my friends about it. When I went to college, I would shut my mind off, and no one knew. No one really knew what I was going through. Maybe if they did, they would have found ways to help me, or try to listen to me at the very least. But I did not allow them, and I now that I look back, I think it's a little unfair for them, because they would have liked to share the burden, I guess. And I felt very lonely because of that. I felt very lonely because no one understood what I was going through. I would have these temper tantrums, and I was very moody for obvious reasons, and they didn't understand why. And I did owe them an explanation now that I think about it. And yeah, that is it. So I would definitely say friends who are sensitive and who are emotionally intelligent are very much necessary if you are grieving. And another interesting thing that happened to me was that I found myself absorbing people's pain. For me, I wasn't just grieving the loss of my father, the relationship that I had with my father, but also the relationship that my aunt had with her younger brother, that my cousins had with their uncle. It just occurred to me that all of them knew a different version of my dad, and all of them were grieving different versions of my dad. I was very sad about the fact that my sister wasn't around when my dad was diagnosed, when my dad was sick, and throughout his sickness, because she was in the Navy. We had very strict rules about leaves, and she couldn't come back as often as she would have liked to, I'm sure. And I kept thinking, and still do wonder, about the pain that she must have gone through, the kind of frustration that she must have experienced, the kind of frustration that my mother might have experienced, because she took it the hardest. And no one really talks about the distress that the caregivers have to go through, and the kind of a mental toll that it takes on them. But I've seen that firsthand, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. I don't think there is a moving on from grief, because grief isn't just about what you have lost, but it's also about what could have been. I sometimes, even though I don't want to have kids, I keep wondering about the fact that if I ever have kids, they are not going to know who their grandfather was. So things like that, it just gets to me. Grieving the fact that my father really wanted to go to Amritsar, and he wanted to tour Europe, and he couldn't get to do that in his lifetime. So I feel bad on his behalf. Uh, I feel sad about the unfulfilled dreams that he had. He wanted to see my sister graduate out of the Naval Academy, and he couldn't because he was at hospice during the time. So, yeah, so many different layers of grief, so many different waves of it. And no one really acknowledges the anger part of it, the bargaining stage of grief where you're angry towards God, towards your circumstances, towards how people are reacting around it, towards the coldness that people are showing. I was mad about how the doctors were so very cold because I remember this one time I asked for a wheelchair for my dad and they denied it when he really couldn't walk. So that coldness really got to me. I was mad that I had to show up to college and give my exams when I was going through one of the toughest periods of my life so far. So, and that is something that people like to turn away from. They don't want to see the anger side of it. They don't want to really acknowledge, as I said, the mental toll that it takes on people. Not just the person who is affected, but also the people, the family, their loved ones. So yeah, I do miss my father. I at times when there is something that I can't figure out on my own. A lot of what ifs. I keep reflecting on what if my father was alive? What if this didn't happen? What if so many scenarios that I can think of. So acceptance is something that you cannot force. It is something that you organically have to arrive at. And even after you accept, it's not that it's the final stage and you can move on, as I said, because there's no really moving on from it. Your new life, your new experiences, new relationships are built around this grief. And it does get smaller with time, uh, in comparison only to the new life that you build. That is it.